Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Good morning and welcome back to Your Partner in Success Radio. Our topic today is designing a purpose-driven life, leadership, transitions, and aging well with Rand Selig. Now, this episode of Your Partner in Success Radio is proudly sponsored by my very dear friend, Ben Gay III. He is a legendary sales trainer and the author of the Closer series. Those books are widely known as the Sales Bibles, and they are essential reading for anyone serious about mastering the art of ethical, effective selling. And I'm excited to welcome back Rand. He is a seasoned entrepreneur, a coach, a conservationist, and a leader who brings decades of experience and insight to the table. And he's been here before. So, with an MBA from Stanford and degrees in both mathematics and psychology, Rand is known for his ability to manage complex global projects while keeping people at the center of everything that he does. His book proves that, and conversations I've had with him prove that. He's also an active board member and longtime scoutmaster who leads with purpose and clarity. And one last thing, he is also the author of Thriving: How to Create a Healthier, Happier, and More Prosperous Life. And that book focuses on personal growth and development. And beyond his professional achievements, he's also deeply involved in philanthropy and environmental stewardship. We talked about that book the last time he was here, and I'll tell you, it's an important part of my entrepreneurial library. So today, Rand is here to share insights on navigating life's transitions. Whether you're closing a chapter, beginning something new, or standing at a crossroads, his approach centers on moving forward with clarity, courage, and purpose. And he believes that with focus and effort, anyone can design a life that's both meaningful and impactful. Good morning, Rand, and welcome back to the show. It's good to have you here.
Oh, Denise, terrific to be with you. You're a great host, and it's a real pleasure. Thank you.
My pleasure. And we were talking in our green room. I had put together something because I love to interview authors. I'm known for it. As a matter of fact, I'll read anything. I'll read the back of a cereal box if that's the only thing in front of me. Don't give me a TV remote. It'll wind up in the couch cushions or under the couch or somewhere. But give me a book and I read, read, read. In fact, I don't like to sleep that much because in my opinion, it cuts down on my reading time. So there you have it. But we were talking in the green room because I think at some point last month on my LinkedIn um, newsletter, I listed a bunch of books, and they were great books. I mean, they were all, Ben Gay was one of them, and Napoleon Hill, books that I really read a lot. And I got a note from you on LinkedIn said, I'd really love it, or I'm paraphrasing, I'd really love it if you added my book. I went, okay, I made a note. So when I put up my newsletter the other day, there you were. So all you have to do is ask. And you did.
Well, this is part of the thing in life. It's part of managing up. Sometimes whether it's because of growing up with and having parents. Hopefully, you had two parents, but a lot of people don't. Uh, managing up with a boss. Managing up, sometimes you got to manage up in other relationships. You can't just sort of think of it's a downhill thing because they're senior to you in some way. They have, power or authority over you that you can't ask for what you need.
Right.
This is a really important thing. So when I saw that you were doing this book list, I thought to myself, I know Denise thinks well of this book. I think this is a great book.
I reviewed it. I love it.
So I just asked you, and I knew the answer could be, well, maybe another time, or but you immediately said absolutely, and I appreciate that.
Well, it's a good book. And listen, like I said, I have hundreds. I'm looking around. I have 3 bookshelves in here. Every one of them is chock-a-block full. I need another bookshelf. I don't have a wall room. I just don't. And I don't want to build another house. So I'm going to have to find a place to put them all.
That's
But
great. That's
But
great.
I mean, when I say your book is part of my entrepreneurial library, I'm not joking. It's a very important book in my view. But what you talk about, and this is so important, is you're talking about building deep and enduring relationships. So my question to you, Rand, is what does it really take to build those meaningful long-term relationships, both personally and professionally, and for the long term? I mean, long term. People, listen, what I do, what you do, it's not transactional. We're doing it with purpose and meaning.
Well, it's true, and I think it's somewhat innate for some people to know how to breathe life into a relationship and make it better and have it evolve over time. But other people don't. And again, that could be because of modeling. It could be a whole lot of things, just inside them, some hesitations, maybe some hurts and wounds that allow them to stop and not allow a relationship to really blossom. But there is an architecture, absolutely, to build a relationship, whether it's a personal one or it's one at the workplace. I wish more relationships, a high quality relationship, happened at the workplace. I think a lot of people leave the work they do because they don't feel seen, they don't feel appreciated. They aren't building the relationships with people that are more than just the casual chit chat. How is your weekend? It's more like, last time we were talking, you mentioned something important going on. Let me check in with you about that. So, at the heart of all this is being interested in the other person, uh, and listening hard and asking questions and then following up, trying to remember. In some cases, there at the workplace there are CRM systems where you can make notes. I think that's not something I do because I fortunately have a good memory. But just to say, I'm interested and tell me more, not to debate, to dialogue with people. Because when you're into the juicy part of a relationship, you're going to be encountering some places where you don't agree. So what do you do about that? Do you write the person off and say, "Oh, you think this, so you got to be an idiot. I don't want to deal with you anymore"? Well, instead, you can be curious and you can say, I'd love to hear more about how you got to think that way. What's going on with you, and ask questions. You don't need to step in with your own opinion too early. When they're interested in what you have to say, in your opinion, what that trip was that you took and all this kind of stuff, they'll ask you. But for now, just stay with being interested in them. Be curious about them. And when you're curious in that way, you avoid the conflict that inevitably can come up if you're in the debate mode. So I say go into dialogue mode. Be interested. Be curious. Listen hard. Ask questions. This is a real big part of building relationships with people.
It is, and you just said something that I've heard a lot, I've used a lot, and that's tell me more. I'm not going to know unless I ask and unless we have the conversation. So tell me more. But I also wrote down while you were talking, Rand, that because I take a lot of notes while I'm listening very intently to my guests. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of mention is that no matter what we're talking about, no matter what we're doing, one of the most important things you can do is say, tell me more, or something along those lines, and then shut up. And I think a lot of people don't get that. And I know that sounds mean, but sit back, uncross your arms, and actually listen. And you brought that up.
I think there's a part of it that is really important too. That if especially it's a very emotional thing, it's a personal relationship, and it's there've been some difficult moments maybe in the relationship, but certainly with this other person explaining and telling you more, is that you summarize at certain points. You say, "What I'm hearing is that this, and this is going on. Did I get that right? Did I miss something?" So that they say, no, you do, you have it. There's one part you know that you didn't mention it, and that's this. And then they can expand on something they may have gone through fairly quickly, but it is important as a part of what they want to explain and share with you. And so it's a way of embracing the totality of what's going on. The emotional aspects is certainly are sometimes overlooked. We can go to the logical, the rational parts, and miss out on that deeper sense of emotion and meaning. What does this mean?
And this can be taught. And I'll be honest with you, when I was younger and far more stupid than I am now, last year, it was, I had to be taught. And I'll tell you who taught me this, because I'm an A-type personality. I'm a logical thinker. I'm a critical thinker. And for the longest kind of time, I didn't realize that I was also a creative during all this. I had no clue. It's amazing what we don't know about ourselves until it's kind of pointed out. But over time, I discovered that I was doing kind of what you're talking about. It's like, well, here you can fix. I was doing the man thing. Well, if you'll do this, you can fix this. I was irritating myself, and I know I was irritating other people, but I could see the answer, and I just would jump in and try to fix things. Well, that's not how you should be doing things. But over time, to get back to what I started with, is by chatting with people like you over the last 17 years on this podcast and reading your books, I've learned so much, and I've gathered a lot of wisdom from y'all, and I wouldn't have that opportunity if I didn't have these conversations. So
I
thank you.
Joel, no, my pleasure. And I mean, this is why I'm out here. This is kind of my mission, to share as much as I can about the experiences I've had and the insights I've had and the reading and so on. And I continue to evolve. I'm very committed to that. Denise, I had a very interesting conversation a couple of weeks ago with somebody who said that they have realized that at the beginning of an important conversation, sometimes, especially if it's with a child or a partner, that you have to ask them, do you want me to listen? Do you want me to give you advice, or do you want a hug?
The hug part, I don't like being hugged, so, but I can do the other two.
So this is important clarity, because the person probably very quickly will tell you which of the three they want. It's so easy, because I'm a problem solver, as I think you are too,
Definitely, yeah.
right? To just jump in and say, oh, well, okay, here's what's going on, so this is what you should do. Or my strong recommendation is this. Well, maybe they're not ready for that. Maybe they don't, they're just trying to have a sounding board. They really just want to be able to figure out, at least for now, what they're doing, what's going on for them, and to have somebody nod their head and ask a few more questions. So listening is very different than giving advice. And for those people who like hugs,
I don't,
sometimes
sorry.
that, you know,
I have this perimeter around me saying, no touching, no touching. And I
ah,
mean it.
you're amazing. Well, but for those people, those people who do, it's a difficult moment. I've had this experience many times with male friends as well, where what they really needed, they just need to be held for a moment, a hug. It's okay. You're going to be okay.
Well, that makes sense. And, you know, I'm not that bad, but I live in the deep South, and everybody wants to hug. And don't touch. I'm in the Walmart parking lot. I don't know. Don't touch me. It's just, I get pretty ticky about it. But it's, I don't know, it's just icky. But one of the things that you and I have talked about a lot, and we're talking about it again here, is that it can be taught, it can be explained. And listen, I caught myself, because you'll often hear me say that I fight with my nerve system. She's not the boss of me. Well, I had to take that to heart, because I'm not the boss of other people either. So stop giving unwanted or unsolicited advice. And I'll tell you how I found that out again not so long ago, because I'm a podcast mentor on top of everything else that I do. And I was talking with this one woman. She's so proud. She just published her 20th episode. She's so excited and it's great. But at one point we were talking on Zoom because I was training her, and she said, I said, well, just I think I was getting impatient because I could see what the problem was. I knew it was fixable in about 5 minutes. And I offered to fix it. And she said, Denise, I have to tell you, I learned by breaking things, and you doing it for me doesn't teach me anything. And I went, oh, and she's right. And I thank her all the time. I knew it already. I knew it, but you forget because, that's your knee-jerk reaction.
Well, it's an interesting breaking things. If you let pain lead to purpose, and you don't reject the hurt, you absorb it, and you say, how can I become stronger? What can I learn from this difficult thing right now? That's just the heart of resilience. It's the heart of growth. And if you shrink from it, you say, well, I'm never going to go there again. I'm never going to do that again. You're denying yourself the opportunity to, maybe you don't want to go back there. Maybe you don't want to. That's fine. I'm not saying you have to just keep getting punched in the nose, but I'm saying learn from it. Have the pain lead to purpose.
Well, that makes sense. Can you share a moment from your own life when you faced a major transition? What helped you navigate it?
Wow. Well, I think my life and everybody's life is just filled with endings and beginnings, whether it's relationships or work we're doing or something. And in the middle of all of that is transition. So, I've been thinking a lot this last 8 months about my relationship with my father. He died peacefully in his sleep at age 102.
My,
Yeah, and
that's not something you hear about much these days.
no, and then we buried him at Arlington National Cemetery because he spent 25 years in the U.S. Army and was in World War II in Korea and Vietnam. So a very
And
big.
today is D-Day, so here we are.
Here we are, Dad. Towering figure, a very tough fellow. And it was a very difficult relationship for me because I sort of imagine old bull, young bull. And the transition that I needed to make, I realized it took me a long time. I was already 50 years old when after decades of struggling with him, I realized he's not going to change. If this relationship is going to improve, I've got to be the one who's going to navigate us through that. And what I realized is I have to give him respect. I have to listen to his stories, even if I've heard them before. That's okay. And that transition from being right to respecting him, to listening to him, was enormously valuable. Actually, I heard the stories again, but I heard them in a different way. And he began respecting me more, which
Well,
I did not
because you heard
expect.
him. He knew that he was actually being heard this
Exactly.
time. My grandmother, we don't have dementia run in my family, thank goodness, but my grandmother did get a little forgetful. And she would tell the same stories over and over and over again. And my mom just would flinch, cringe, and leave the room. They had a very rocky relationship. And honestly, what you're saying right now is part of it was because my mom wouldn't listen to her.
Yeah. Well, listening is just a way of learning, but it's also a way of respecting. There's no question. There's no way around that. And when you listen to understand rather than to be in your own head thinking about the next clever thing you're going to say or the
Right.
next moment when you can share your story, then that openness, it's what I call generous listening. Generous
Oh, I'm
listening.
writing that down. Generous listening. Okay, got it. Keep going.
Yeah. So building relationships is possible. I think there's an architecture for it. I do talk about it in my book because, building relationships, the most important relationship you'll ever have in your life is the one with yourself. So that's an ongoing process. But then you have relationships out in the world with other people, and you can build those and you can continue to make them valuable to you and valuable to them. Relationships at the end of the day are about reciprocity, not necessarily something you measure. I gave you three, and so you owe me three back, but more a sense of there's a value that you both see and recognize in the relationship with each other. So yeah, the latter is very intriguing to me. From a very casual sort of notice and walk by, maybe then get to say hello, and then moving on to asking, casual questions, moving to a much more important questions, more intimate questions, getting to the place of making an invitation. Hey, would you like to have a coffee together? Would you like to go on a hike with me? If you're going to go for a coffee, it could be very short. A hike could be a lot longer. So are you ready for the longer one-on-one? And
Right.
so on. So there's a whole part of going from head to heart and opening yourself up as you build a relationship.
And this is going to sound a bit odd, but those relationships can be single. They can never happen again sometimes. Listen, I'm a highly committed introvert, and I'll tell you why I'm saying this. It doesn't mean I'm shy. I don't have a single filter that I've ever located, but I do need to be left alone. I'm an introvert. But when I'm out and about, I'm chatting with people. I live in the deep south. You can't avoid it. Your people are going to talk to you. You're going to talk back. And I was looking at this elderly lady that was in the checkout stand in the grocery store in front of me, and she was so cute. Her hair was perfectly done. She was wearing this really cute little outfit that I could see my mom wearing, and she had on sparkly little sandals. Well, I'm a nerd in stilettos. Shoes are important. So I, I just opened my mouth. I said, "Your shoes are so cute." Listen, we paid for everything. We moved our buggies. We moved over to the side of the store and we stood there and talked for an hour. I never saw her again, but we both made each other's day. It was important. And this was many years ago. I've never forgotten it.
Well, what I'm imagining as you're describing that, Denise, is that you were present with each other, and
Very much. Yeah.
the beauty of being present that way. I mean, we've heard this a lot in the last few decades, the Buddhists be present and all this kind of stuff. Um, there's there's to me some kernels to this which are so important. One is that it's enjoyable. There's the rest of the world is not part of the scene right there. You're just with this other person, and time goes by in a very different way. You're not kind of looking at your watch going, well, that was 15 minutes, so I've got to move on. You say you were there for an hour. It's completely. I understand entirely what you're saying about that. I mean, I mark my day and week by those moments of presence and those deeper conversations. And as you say, I may not talk to that person again. Or maybe they do. Maybe it was just this incredible opening, and I keep on bumping into them at the same place. The synchronicity of life allows us to our paths to cross again, which is fantastic.
Exactly. And I've never seen her since, but in my head, I know exactly what she looked like. I remember those cute little shoes. She gave me a gumbo recipe. I mean, we had a good time. We really did. It was just one of those moments, an hour-long moment it'll be with me for the rest of my life. And that leads me to my next question because and I mentioned that she was elderly. She was. So I didn't expect to see her anytime soon, to be honest, but she was in great physical shape and she was cute. And I was like, I want to grow up to be her. So
That's so
we had
marvelous.
a long conversation, but aging well isn't just physical, is it? And what are some of the mindset shifts or the daily practices that you believe can help people age with purpose, resilience, and joy? Cute shoes will do it, by the way. Just write that down.
Well, I've given several talks about aging well. We all age. That's a given, but we don't all age well. And so part of my book talks about this, and I've expanded my own thinking and reading about what are the keys to aging well. And I'm speaking mostly psychologically and emotionally, but here are my 10 keys. One, be positive. This is a choice. In fact, all of these are choices. So we have enormous power. This is really the premise of my book. We have enormous power to make these choices. So, number one, be positive. Two, have purpose. I've talked to people in retirement homes, and I say, you got to have purpose. And they look at me like, my purpose is to, my next meal. I'm
Oh, no.
just on Easy Street. I said, my purpose is being kind and being respectful and listening and asking somebody new if there's anything you can do for them, and ask what their story is, and welcoming them. Having purpose at whatever level you are. It doesn't have to be headline grabbing. It has to be important to you. Third, be grateful. Oh my gosh, no matter what's going on, you could just have gotten the terrible news, the doctor report. But how do you be grateful after that? Well, you say, what could have made it worse? Who do I have in my life who's going to be supporting me? Do I have good medical care? Do I trust the doctor and the team? These things, being grateful. And if you just open your eyes and look around and go, wow, take a look at this world, the beauty, the natural beauty I'm talking about. Number four, be curious. Being curious is so valuable. It gets you on the road to being a lifelong learner. It makes life fun. And it's one of these things where we can avoid those conflict. It's a tool in the conflict resolution thing. When you're curious rather than being right, it really helps. Number five is having humor, both in terms of the situation. I'm not talking about jokes, although I love jokes, but about the situation. So you're driving down the road, and there's construction going on again. It's rush hour. So you laugh. You're frustrated. Why are they doing this again at this time of the day? You laugh and say, ha ha, there they are again. You also have to have humor about yourself. Saying, yeah, here I am, a work in progress, and I blabbed about something I promised myself I wouldn't blab about anymore. Number six and seven and eight are all what I call the big three for emotional health. These are self-sabotaging. Don't do it. Listen to yourself. Are you saying, I can't do that? I'm not good enough for that. And nobody will accept me for that position. They won't take me on in this role. That's self-sabotaging. Don't do it. It's not going to win. Another one, number seven, is forgiveness. Forgive other people. I've met so many people decades on who are still carrying that heavy rock in their backpack about something that happened a long time ago. Something happened, somebody did something, here's how you felt about it, and you felt you deserved an apology, you didn't get one. You haven't forgiven them. So I say, look, what you need to do is you need to look deep. You have to, first of all, be honest. Did you contribute to the problem? And when
The answer is always going to be yes, by the way.
It's going to be yes, maybe in a small way, but in some way it could have been a very big way. So you have to forgive. And I say, look, if the person's not in your life anymore, or maybe they're not on the planet anymore, write a letter to them. You don't mail it, obviously, but it's a letter where you describe the situation, how you felt, and you say, "Look, I didn't get the apology from you, but I'm forgiving you for this thing," and you let it go. And it's an amazing, amazing thing. And the same applies to your own mistakes and things you did, where you showed up not the best person that you could have been. Maybe you're a much better person now, but this may have happened before when you were, not this better person. You got to forgive. And you have to let go. So this is actually, these three was the hardest for me, because I thought that a lot of my accomplishments and success and ability to do things was because I was in control. But thanks to a fantastic wife and two amazing adult children, they taught me that actually what I was controlling was not nearly as much as I thought I was. That actually all I was controlling, it's pretty important, but what I was controlling was four things. One, my attitude. Two, the amount of effort I was willing to put into something. Three, what my behaviors were. And then fourth, what actions I decided to take. After those four, it's about other people. And what can I do with other people? I can influence them if I'm doing things well. And if I'm not doing things well, my influence diminishes. So I had to learn to let go and just understand that where I was, what I controlled, and where I influenced. Number 9 is having friends of all ages. This is a lesson from my dad. I would talk to dad over the last, gosh, I don't know, decades and decades, and he'd be mentioning that he just had a visit from somebody, and so I don't know that person. He says, "Oh yeah, well they're they're 30 years old, and we get together periodically, and
Right.
I'm learning things from them, and they love learning things from me. I can be a little bit of a mentor, but they are just it's a friendship." And at first I thought, he's just using that word blandly, but they cared about him. He cared about them. And I'm very happy to say I have friends with people who are 20 years older than I am, as well as people who are half my age. So friends of all ages is an amazing thing to aging well. And then the last one, and I want to anchor my top 10 keys to aging well with this one, and that is about being love. Now, we live in a society, and it's maybe very common around the world, to have love be a sort of Hollywood kind of deal. It's very romantic kind of thing. And in that way, it's kind of private. And I say, look, we can go well beyond that. We can make this a public good by being the kinds of things we've been talking about, being kind and being respectful and listening and caring and bringing your best self forward. This is
And
this is
and I
being
have to
love.
interrupt just a bit because what you just described, it's not just outward, you have to do the same for yourself.
Oh,
Everything you just said needs to be reflected back in your own face daily so you can say, how did I do today? Where can I be better?
Denise, thank you so much. One of the, in my book, at the end, readers are telling me one of the many things they like about my book is that in the appendix, I have a paragraph of 75 books that I've read that really impacted me, and one of them is "Good Morning, I Love You."
No, I'm not familiar with that. Who wrote that?
Her name is Shauna. She actually lives here in my town. I've met her in
Oh,
person. I wish I could spend more time with her. She's really very big into mindfulness. Let me just quickly see if I can. Shanna Shapiro is her last name.
okay, I'm going to have to go look for that.
Good Morning, I Love You. And the subtitle is Mindfulness and Self-Compassion Practices to Rewire Your Brain for Calm, Clarity, and Joy. Shauna Shapiro, PhD. She says she gets up in the morning, she goes to the mirror, and she says, "Good morning, I love you, Shauna."
Oh,
And that's what you're talking about. You got to love yourself.
yeah, even when it's difficult. And trust me, when I was younger and smarter last year, it was longer ago than that, that was difficult for me. It really was.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
had to train myself into saying, Denise, you're pretty nifty. Let's let's make this happen.
Well, given that we're talking about my dad and that it's DA, I want to mention something I found on his desk. I had to, after he passed away, I had to go and clean out the house and put it on the market. And I found an amazing thing that he had typed up. And it's probably somewhat familiar, but it's a way of living life. He says, "Work like you don't need the money. Love like no one has ever hurt you. Dance like nobody is watching. Sing like nobody is listening.
I do that all the time.
And live as if this was paradise on earth."
That's beautiful.
Isn't
Repeat that for me if you would, because I want
Yeah.
people to listen and write it down.
Work like you don't need the money. Love like no one has ever hurt you. Dance like nobody is watching. Sing like nobody is listening. And live as if this was paradise on earth.
That's beautiful.
Isn't that great?
It is.
Actually,
And
we're going to go back to Arlington in 2 weeks and do the unveiling for the tombstone. And I'm going to read that. I'm going to tell, I can just imagine where it was on his desk. And it's just a way of, I think he lived that life. And I'm his son.
you are. And listening to how you had a difficult relationship for the longest kind of time, and then listening to what he wrote, there seems to be some disparity between how you viewed him and how he viewed himself. But that's always how it is. We see ourselves in ways that we don't know how people view us. We
What's
just don't.
true?
But we know how we view ourselves, and sometimes we're pretty darn ugly to ourselves.
It's true. And what's also very, very fascinating, I'm doing a big investigation now by looking inside me and then looking at others of how people are with their families and how they are with friends and what the differences are. It's a lot easier in some cases to have nice relationships with friends because there's not a baggage, there's not a history, there's not a set of expectations. Dad had lots of people in his life. People, I mean, you couldn't believe the funeral and the memorial service. I mean, a huge number of people came out, and then there was an open mic. And the things they said, I was not surprised by any of them. There was some humor stories. Everybody got him. A very tough guy, very demanding, but a heart of gold, willing to share, very, very giving in lots of ways. But with the family, it was a different thing. We heard the rough part.
Right.
We heard the part of you need to do more.
Well,
So
and I think that's
yeah.
honestly, I think I shared this with you before. In fact, I know I did, but my brother had a double lung transplant and he had an extra year, 8 years. He lived an extra 8 years, but that last year was just god awful for him and everybody around him. It was just awful. And he called me. He had always told us in the family, when I decide to stop dialysis, I'll be dead within 3 days. And that was his way of, he wasn't going to kill himself. He wasn't going to overdose with pills. He was just going to stop. And Rand, I got a phone call. I'm sorry, I got a text. It was a Wednesday because that was his dialysis day. He said, I didn't go today. And I said, okay. And I called him and I said, can I record this call? Because I knew it was going to be the last time he would be able to have a conversation that made any sense. He was already failing. And we talked for the longest kind of time. We forgave each other. We laughed. We picked at each other. We talked about things that we saw very, very differently. And I'm telling you this because of that. We would be looking at the same incident. He was 5 years younger than I am. He saw it completely differently. And we might be looking at the exact same thing. So you don't know how your family is viewing you. You don't know how you're viewing them until you ask those questions, which you did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. And it starts early. It starts early. The modeling that we get and how relationships and how we are, our relationship with ourselves and how we navigate through the world. This starts so early. I mean, even before maybe we're 1 year old. So these ways we're sort of molded are hard to revise. It takes work. It takes a lot of work. It takes commitment. It takes an honesty. It takes courage.
Intention. You have to have that intention. You can't just say, "Oh, that's how dad is. Got to go now." You just can't. You can do it, and a lot of people do it. But what would you have missed if you hadn't gotten very intentional with how you viewed him and how you two communicated?
So right. So absolutely right. It was a gift I gave myself, and it's a gift I gave to our relationship. And I became a much better person for having done that. And I knew it was on me, and I was able. I have broad shoulders, strong guy. Just because he was a powerful dad didn't mean that it wasn't on me to breathe life into that relationship. Glad to have done it.
And it sounds like I think he always appreciated you. He probably just didn't know how to convey that to you because of the modeling that we have as
Yep.
young children. And it's like, okay, I'm your dad, do what you're told, nobody gets hurt. You know, that can kind of stop some conversations right there, can't it?
Oh, it really can. And, I think there's an investigation each of us needs to make about how can we communicate? What do we need? What are the ingredients that we need to communicate something important? What kind of safety? What kind of moment of energy do we need to have? Do you write a note? Do you pick up the phone? Do you do a little text thing? Do you sit down in person? What is it? Do you drive down the road in the car looking straight ahead, which is a lot safer than looking at somebody? Do you take a walk where you can be looking forward and bringing up something that's really important to you, maybe painful, maybe something revealing that you have never revealed before, but you're not making it super duper scary by looking directly into the person's eye. You're just, staring forward, but speaking from your brain and your heart. So you got to figure out how do I do this? At what time can I have that conversation? And of course, you have that conversation with yourself first, in a
Oh,
way,
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
and then you can bring it out. Um, this is part of the managing that we can do of ourselves and managing of our relationships with others. And as you say, Denise, absolutely, it's a commitment we're making.
And it can be terrified. I'll be honest with you. I've one or two family members that have since passed. I didn't speak with them, my father in particular, for the longest kind of time. He was never really all that present in my life anyway, but at one point he said something to me that I just said, "That's it. We're done." And I never spoke to him again. And when he passed, I am ashamed to admit that I would never have picked up the phone and said, "We need to fix this." I didn't want to fix it. And Rand, I'm not sorry. I'm just not sorry. But those people are going to be in your life. You're going to have to make the decision to say, "No, I'm really done." Or I need to, maybe I'm just dead wrong and we can give it one more shot. But those are decisions you have to make on your own. But once they're gone, they're gone. You can't revisit it and say, should have had a chat. It's too late. So if you want to have those conversations, you better get in there now.
I think that's really right. And I like to say that we can be the author of our own stories, and we can be the driver of our own bus. And when you're the driver of your own bus, of course, you're deciding a lot of things. You're deciding, how fast to go and when to stop and when to turn right, when to turn left, who to invite on your bus.
There you go.
So, and
You
who
can
to
come on,
invite.
but you get off. You go stand by the sign. You're not coming in.
Exactly. And who to invite off your bus. And
Right.
absolutely, absolutely, Denise, times when you say this person is we whatever relationship we had at one point was fine, but it's no longer that relationship, and I'm moving on, and I'm gonna depart, in the right way. But I don't need to keep this person on the bus. Or maybe they're
Right.
toxic. Maybe it's a really bad thing, and maybe it's toxic for them too. So sometimes you've got to invite people off your bus. Who is driving the bus?
You are. I am. And listen, like I said, my nav system, she says, "Go left." No, you're not the boss of me. I'm the boss. Now, do I always make the best decisions? No. But I make them in the moment when it feels like the right thing to do. Now, I'm probably going to revisit them down the road and say, let's see if we can fix this. But then again, like I just said, I may not, and I mean it. So, one thing, and Rand, you believe that we can all design meaningful and impactful lives with effort and focus and intention. So, here's my question: where does someone begin if they're just feeling stuck or out of alignment? And if everybody is listening who says, "Well, I'm not out of alignment," yeah, you are. So pay attention. At some level, you're out of alignment somewhere. You just need to identify it.
Well, that's really right. This is actually, I mean, you can look at this in a very sort of positive way that this is a process of life. Things are never a perfect 10 all the time. They might be really a 10 for a moment, but that moment goes away, and then you're back to whatever level. I run around at a 9, and I know that's a pretty rare thing, but sometimes I slipped way down to the 7, but the 10 is a very rare thing. So realigning is an ongoing thing, and just reconnecting. So to answer that question, how do you do that if you're stuck? Well, you have to take a look. You have to look inside. What is going on? I mean, there are so many times when something's going on and I'm confused by it. It's a jumble of things. And so what do? I write it down. That's a process that works for me. I know it's a different thing for other people. Somebody told me recently they do a whiteboard thing. I said, okay, if that works, do it. That's great. I'm sure there are other people who kind of talk out loud with affirmations or something. But you got to know what's going on. You got to unpack the situation. You got to unpack you. Take a look. What are you good at? What are you happy with yourself about? I say start with that because you want to build up some positive energy here and some positive momentum. And then look at the other parts. What are you kind of not doing a great job? What are you disappointed with yourself about? What kind of feedback, if you're fortunate to have any, is told you that you're not on it? Take a look at that, review that. In my case, I have to write notes and lists to myself, and then I say, okay, look, it's not all good news, and it's certainly not all bad news. So, what am I going to do about that? I'm going to lean into the things I'm strong about. I'm going to pick and keep working on the things that I'm not good about. I need to have support. I can't navigate this whole thing by myself. So I'm going to pick some people and build a relationship so I can confide in them what's going on and ask for their support. And sometimes they say, what I need is the hug, or sometimes what I need you to just be a sounding board. And sometimes I will say, I need your advice, and I will tell you which one I want. So if you're starting on the advice thing and that's not where I'm ready for that, then I will tell you, no, no, hold on, we'll come back to that later.
Right, right.
So to me, absolutely no substitute for doing that homework of getting to know yourself, being self-aware. Once you have that, then you can get yourself unstuck. You can create some energy to take those next steps forward, and maybe reposition yourself in maybe little ways, subtle ways, and maybe sometimes in fairly big ways.
One thing I do, and I've shared this before on the show, so it shouldn't be a surprise if you're regular listeners, but if I've got something that's just it's bugging me, it's tickling at the back of my head, I can't figure it out. and I'm experiencing what I can only describe as a low-level sense of dread. When I go to sleep at night, which is not easy, I'll be honest with you. I have to really work at going to sleep. But when I sleep for a couple, 3 hours, so I'm all good. But just before I know I'm about to fall asleep, I will look up at my ceiling fan because that's where my spirit's got. Everybody's up there listening to me. And I will say to my subconscious, I'll say my prayers very quickly and I do everything out loud because somebody is listening. I really do believe that. It's not, my Alexa, I shut that off, but somebody's listening, somebody's paying attention. And I will tell my subconscious to, can you review this? I've got something that's tickling the back of my mind. I don't know what it is. It's driving me batty. Can you help me? 3:18, Rand. I wake up 3:18 every single morning. I wake up, I turn the light on, I write it down because the answer was right there. I had it all along. I just couldn't access it.
There you go. That's a beautiful story, Denise. Thank you. I wanna share. It just seems like the right moment. Share another thing I found on my dad's desk. Um, and this was in every person's life. There are two wolves fighting. One of joy, love, and happiness. One of anger, hate, and greed. Which wolf wins? The one you
That's up
feed.
to,
The one
that's
you
up to you, right?
the one you feed.
Exactly. I've read that before, and it is true. And it's something that you have to decide where you're going to step. Who are you going to be? Who are you feeding? What are you feeding?
Yeah.
What makes your stomach hurt? And if it's you constantly going, I must be doing something wrong because my stomach hurts or I've got a headache, you're doing that to yourself. So
Well,
stop it.
I think another thing that I would encourage people to do is pay attention to the words they're using. So, for example, are you saying I should? Or are you saying I could?
I
If,
could.
yeah, if it's a could, it opens up all kinds of things. And and if you're saying I should, where's that coming from? It could be a voice from mom or dad or a boss or society's kind of message to you, and maybe that's just not the thing that's good for you. Maybe play into the I could.
Well,
Uh,
and you mentioned earlier, can't, the word can't. Listen, that I don't allow myself to ever say the word can't. Now, I'm pig-headed. Everybody knows this. So I will say I won't, but you'll never hear me say I can't do something like swimming because I don't swim. Why? Because I'll drown. But I don't say I can't swim.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, these words matter because there's a whole science around um, words forming thoughts and thoughts
Hmm.
forming words to back and forth thing. And so if you pay attention over the next few days, over the next week, listen to yourself or listen to somebody else. What are they saying? Just notice. Are they using words like should or could? Are they saying yes, but? Which is I every time somebody says yes, but, I feel like they're holding up their hand saying stop,
I just saw the same thing in my head.
right?
I know what you're talking about.
As opposed to yes and, which includes, then you're including their thought with yours, and you're making something, adding something more to it. Yes and is so much more powerful than the yes buts, and kinder too.
And it leads back to curiosity because now you've opened it up.
There we go. There we go. And another thing, some people, we live in a very fast-paced world. There was one of the gifts of the pandemic is it slowed things down for a lot of folks. And I was thinking, wow, we really need this. People are going way too fast. They're not taking the time to appreciate stuff. And so the word busy is another one of these words. When I say, I'm busy. Well, it usually is kind of a negative thing they're saying, right? Like overly busy. I say I don't use that word busy, although I have a very jam-packed schedule of things, which I've selected. I say I'm delightfully scheduled.
There you go. I'm writing that down. Keep going.
Yeah. So these are all kinds of the power of these words, and then with those words we create. We create either the super good and the possibilities, or we create some negativity and some limitations. A choice, another choice.
Exactly. Rand, what kind of legacy are you most interested in creating through your work and your relationships and conversations like this that we're having today?
No, Denise, thank you for that question. Actually, I've thought a lot about that. I write about it in my book because having a legacy, knowing your legacy and living it now, is an amazing thing to do. So my legacy is a fourfold legacy, and it's been evolving and getting better. It's kind of almost like a ladder. It started with excellence, which started in high school for me and has carried through in everything I do, relationships, work, and so on. Then I moved to clarity about purpose. My purpose right now is engaging as many people as I can around the themes of thriving and the possibilities and the choices that we can make in our lives and who we work with and play with, our habits and our feelings. And it moves then on to being encouraging, being a voice of encouragement, uh, and then ending up with being love, which we were talking about a few minutes ago. So this is the legacy that I'm living, trying to live now, and I hope when I'm gone and the dust is blowing around, that people will have benefited by my life and my legacy.
Thank you for sharing that. So many of us don't think about what legacy we're living or what we're going to leave behind. I haven't for the longest kind of time. I figured, well, I'm here and I'll be gone, which is kind of stupid when you say it that way. So recently I've been thinking, what am I going to leave behind? Well, these conversations are definitely part of my legacy. There's no question about it. But beyond that, I'll be honest, I don't know yet.
Well, it's my invitation to you, Denise, since you're so cool, is to get on with that. We think of legacy in the big L kind of way, the tombstone business.
Right.
And I say, no, no, no. Don't carve your name on a piece of marble. Carve it on people's hearts now. So, and the other thing that softens this a little bit is the little L legacy, which is just for a period of time, maybe in one single relationship, maybe in one period of a work experience. You can be a certain kind of person. You can create a certain legacy for that. It's not the totality of all that you are, but it is that slice, and that legacy can be amazingly cool too. In fact, I guess the truth is that is really what legacy is. It's the combination of all of those slices, because some people will get it and like it and lean into it, and other people will not see it or not be particularly engaged in it. That's okay. The slices that count are the ones that lead to the
Right.
legacy.
So we're not actually disappearing. We're still there with somebody,
Yes.
somebody's heart, somebody's thoughts. I guess because I'm such a deep reader and I've read everything. I was reading Guy de Maupassant when I shouldn't have been. I was maybe 10 years old. People are saying, "What? Why were you reading it?" Well, it was in front of me. I had to read it. But I'm talking in particular about legacy books. That's where I really gain a lot of my knowledge is from books and reading other people and through this podcast, talking with other people. And I guess I was thinking, well, I need to write a book. No, I don't. I am writing a book, but I really think that the biggest part of my legacy right now is you, people like you.
Well, I think you're making a huge contribution, Denise, and I appreciate it. It's my second time to be on your guest, and maybe if you're thinking this is good and your listeners tell you it's good, maybe you'll invite me to round number three.
I know what you just did there. You did it. You did it already. You can't fool me a third time. I got You're welcome to come back anytime at all. And I have to ask you, because we are running out of time, what's next for you? Is there a new project or a passion that you're excited about right now?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, my brain is firing electrons all the time, and so. But next for me is coming up. Hopefully this summer, the audio book version of Thriving will be available. I don't want to set a particular date or time, and I don't want to discourage people from actually picking up the ebook or the print copy. But I know some people are audio listeners. They read a book by listening for whatever set of reasons, and that's fine. So that's coming. It's some work. I'll be launching it, and I'll let you know, Denise, when I do. Reviews matter on all of these things, and so that's one thing. I'm also stepping up. This is my 89th guest appearance on a podcast. And I'm enjoying it. I'm reaching a lot of people, different topics. Some are very business focused, other are a little bit more in the overcoming obstacles, people with distractions or ADHD and so on. So lots of different segments of our population, and that's fun. So I'll continue to do the podcasting. I enjoy it a lot. But I'm also very keen on stepping up to do keynotes to trade associations, to companies, with nonprofits and so on. So hopefully that'll grow some legs on it, and also doing some workshops. I'm very excited about taking an hour-long conversation with a great host and moving it into a real experience over the course of maybe 3 or 4 hours, or maybe possibly a day or two, where I can really have a chance to dial in to so many of the important, juicy elements of what is thriving about. And maybe even have an opportunity with this multiple day thing to have some one on ones with some folks. So, this is a rich roadmap. People ask me, "Wow, your book is doing really well. You've been out there. Are you going to write another book?" And I go, "This one has so much to it right now that I'm deferring. I'm jotting notes to myself about other topics, but right now I'm just really wanting to stay fully immersed in this I think very important and very stimulating engagement with thriving."
And I don't blame you. You don't want to muddy the waters just yet, but you mentioned Audible, and I have to tell you, I read. I want the hardback. I want the book. I want to have. I like the smell of books. I like to, open them up. But I have the hardback. I download the Kindle. I also, if there's an Audible, I will go get that. And honest to goodness, I will read that same book in three different ways, sometimes simultaneously,
Wow.
because I pick up more things, and I'm a speed reader, so it's not difficult for me. But I will have the book open in front of me. I do this all the time. Then I will have the Kindle open because you can, highlight things and make little notes and I send them to myself. And then I'm listening at the same time. So it's like not a double whammy, it's a triple whammy. I'm
Mhm.
getting so much information in one go. I suggest if you have the ability to do that, do it.
Mhm.
Whoever's listening, if you can listen and read in three different ways, do it.
Well, I appreciate that point, Denise. One of the hesitations I had with doing the audiobook is that my book is a little bit like a workbook, because every 3 or 4 pages I ask another question. I say, these are not rhetorical questions. The more you really answer those questions for yourself, the more you're going to get out of this book and out of the process. So, if I'm talking about values, I'll at a certain moment pause and say, and write, what are your values? What's most important to you? Well, the audio listener can do what you're saying too by pausing their audio listening and write that down, come back to it, bookmark that, and so on.
And you
So,
can also add a PDF to your Audible. I'm sure you know that.
yes.
So that's an option as well.
Yep. Yep. I just added to my website the recommended books by chapter. So the 75 books are there with a description of each one, and then also additional information for the audio listener, which has web links, which has diagrams, which of course I describe, but it's nothing to me quite like seeing them, and then acronyms, which also describe, but it's kind of nice to see them.
Great.
That's been added to the website now too.
Well, Rand, we are out of time and I hate this. And yes, you can come back. I'll just, since you asked so nicely and since you put me on the spot, I see you clapping. So listen, thank you for joining us again today. And before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience? And where can they connect with you? And how can they find your book?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I just want to encourage people. Yes, you can build the life you want. You can be the designer of your own life by making the important choices. And you can find my book. Of course, it's at Amazon. It's all at all the independent stores. But just go if you want to learn more about this book and learn more, read about me, and download my favorite quotes by chapter. 40 quotes. So people say they have them on their desk, and they say today's this quote. By going to www.randselig.com, RAND, S as in Sam, ELIG.com.
Got it. Well, listen, everybody. Today on Your Partner in Success Radio, the conversation with Rand Selig was a powerful reminder that leadership, personal growth, and purpose don't have an expiration date, and you can start at any time. You don't have to say, well, I haven't done this before. Well, today's a good day. So whether you're navigating a major transition or simply seeking more alignment in your day-to-day life, the insights that he shared today are a roadmap, quite literally, for living and leading with intention. And this episode of Your Partner in Success Radio is proudly sponsored by Ben Gay III. He is a legendary sales trainer, and he's the final mentee of Dr. Napoleon Hill. If you didn't know that before, you know it now. And he is the author of the Closer series, and I will be joining that series, part 4. My book will be for part 4, and it is essential reading for anyone serious about mastering the art of ethical, effective selling. So if something Rand said resonated with you, I encourage you to visit randselig.com, SELIG.com, and connect with him on LinkedIn. I see him over there every day. And don't forget to share this episode with someone who could use a little guidance or a lot of guidance through a turning point of their own. And be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and join us next time for more conversations that inspire action. Rand, thank you so much. This has been a genuine pleasure. It's always lovely talking with you.
Denise, thank you so much again. You're just simply marvelous. I know I won't send you a hug because you don't like hugs, but I'm doing one in the mind.
I can hang with that. I don't mind a virtual. I don't know what it is. My mom said that when I was born, I would push her back as when I could, I would push her away from me. And she also insisted that my first word was no. So that tells you everything you need to know about my personality. But anyway, thank you, Rand, and I look forward to having you come back again.
Let's do it, Denise. And meanwhile, keep rocking. You're terrific. And as I think I've mentioned before, if you ever find yourself out here in San Francisco, you have to let me know. I'm
I
Boston.
know. Well, I'm from that area, so I'll be there at some point. In fact, my sister has been nagging that I have to come back home. I'm home, but the Deep South is home for me. But at some point, I will be in San Francisco. I'll let you know.
Oh, please do.
I will.
We'd have so much fun. Oh,
I
yeah.
know. I know. And you'll have to sign the book for me. Okay, I gotta run. So
Okay.
I'll see you again,
Thank
everybody.
you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.